Refer to you by your father type.
Grand Kuba and Chief.
Grand Poobah, isn't that the Royal Order of the Water Buffaloes?
Ooh, is that right?
Yeah. I remember my Flintstones.
You feel ready? You do. Go ahead and hit the record button. Yeah, we're recording and then you come. Oh, okay. And we'll see what I got. So, this is Alex Campbell and as the acting community involvement director and secretary. And so, I will start by calling the roll. How about I go back to something I lost for this season? Here. Commissioner Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Shapiro,
Yeah.
Commissioner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Laura,
Yeah.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
My mic on as I was doing that, but so we have all members of the commission except for Chair Volkart and Vice Chair Riley here. And I believe the first order of business would be to name a chair for an acting chair for this meeting. Before the meeting, because I wanted to share some script with you all. I chatted with a few of you all. Commissioner Clark expressed some willingness to take on that role, but then I guess I should continue to facilitate a process by which you all may nominate and elect Commissioner Clark. So
I nominate Commissioner Clark to chair this evening's meeting.
do we have a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? I will call the roll. So Commissioner Hazel,
Yes.
Commissioner D'Amato,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
Commissioner Shapiro.
Yes.
And Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Excellent. Commissioner Clark, it's all yours and thank you for your service.
All right, item number 2 on the agenda is brief announcements by staff.
Great. I have one request that if we have time, well, I guess I have 2 requests now. If we have time, I'd like to additional on the agenda, a third discussion item to go back and share with you all some more questions about the climate friendly area as we've been working on that overlay. And then the second item I'm noticing is that we should renumber the agenda. The agenda is slightly misnumbered. We've got 2 6s. So,
Okay.
If that, is there any objection to that or any interest in discussing that? Thank you. And then more in the spirit of a brief announcement, Rick Zylstra, our new community development director, is going to be starting on Monday, November 3rd. Rick Zylstra. It's actually spelled with a Y, Zylstra. Rick was most recently the Community Development Director at City of Oak Ridge. He's sort of a second career planner. His first career was in the construction, home construction business. Went to work for City of Oak Ridge and found he enjoyed that, went back to school, got his master's in regional planning from the University of Oregon, and has been their community development director for about 3 years now. So anyway, this next time I see you, I'll be side by side with Rick.
So what day are we starting?
November 3rd. And that's it that I have for announcements.
All righty. Item number 3 is approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
I have a question about the tracker. Commissioner, were you at that meeting?
No, I wasn't.
fine.
So,
Okay, never mind.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So I was absent.
You were at, I'm assuming that that was not.
That wasn't that one. No, I was traveling instead. So I should be marked absent
And that was for the
on the
23rd.
And do we wish to field the approval of minutes individually or collectively? Anyone? I'll just say I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from September 23rd and October 14th.
I second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes from September 23rd and October 14th. 2025, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'm gonna recuse myself from, I didn't listen to the 23rd. So
Okay.
abstain, I guess.
The motion passes.
Thank you. I'll note for the record, we didn't have you as present, but we didn't have you as absent either, right? So we'll make that correction.
Item number 4 is public comment on non-agenda items. Is there anyone joining us remotely? Victor, a chance?
Very long.
And I believe Ron is planning on speaking on an agenda item.
Okay. Okay, good to know. Item 5 is the public hearing legislative consideration of text amendments to the Talent Comprehensive Plan and Talent Municipal Code. The proposed changes to the comprehensive plan are text amendments to element G, housing, including an updated residential buildable lands inventory. File CPA 2025-002, applicant City of Talent. And the proposed changes to the Talent Municipal Code are to chapter 18 zoning, including chapter 18.110 off-street parking and loading. File DCA 2025-2022, applicant City of Talent. I will now open the public hearing.
You certainly may.
Okay, is there anything that should come, or should we hear from staff prior to the opening of the hearing? Let's do that.
Thank you. I Chair, I would be happy to read these comments for the record, if that makes sense.
Okay, do we do that before opening the? Here, there.
I wasn't thoroughly listening. The first words on this I call this hearing to order. So the hearing's been called to order. And then if you would read the remainder of these script items, that would be for the record.
For this,
Yeah,
this 2-pager here.
yeah.
Sure. I call this hearing of October 28th, 2025 to order as the acting chair of the Planning Commission for the City of Talent, Oregon. The public hearing today will be in 2 parts. Proposed comprehensive plan text amendments to element G housing, residential buildable lands update, and 2 proposed changes to chapter 18 zoning, including 18.110 off-street parking and loading. 1, the planning commission conducts public hearings and makes decisions about land use matters. State law provides that land use applications and appeals of administrative land use decisions must be judged based on the law that existed when an application was filed. 2, the agenda for today's meeting, a copy of the rules of procedure for each application or appeal hearing today, and copies of relevant staff reports are available from staff and on the website. If you have questions or do not understand the procedures governing today's quasi judicial hearing, please ask city staff for further explanation before the public testimony portion of this hearing begins. 3, at the start of each part of our quasi judicial land use hearings today, I will state the title and file number of the agenda item. Then, because planning commission members are to be unbiased, I will ask commissioners to disclose any bias, conflicts, or ex parte contact they have had or presently have as to that particular agenda item. 4, I will then ask staff to summarize its written report. Next, I will open the public portion of the hearing, the evidentiary hearing. I will first invite those in favor of the application to testify, then persons who oppose the application or who have questions or concerns will have the opportunity to testify. If there is opposition testimony or there are questions, the applicant can respond to them. 5, evidence and testimony must be directed toward the criteria summarized by the city planner and other criteria in the city zoning code, comprehensive plan, subdivision code, or other land use and development related regulations that the person testifying believes to be applicable to the decision. Testimony or other evidence on any issue should be sufficiently clear and detailed to allow the parties and the commission the opportunity to formulate a detailed response. Otherwise, no appeal to the State Land Use Board of Appeals may be made on that issue. These are the time limits allotted for testimony during the evidentiary hearing. Any person speaking as an individual, 5 minutes. Any person speaking as a representative of a group, 10 minutes. Planning commissioners may ask questions of the staff and the witnesses during an evidentiary hearing. Time spent on commissioners' questions and responses to them is not counted against allotted time limits. 8, before the conclusion of an initial evidentiary hearing in a quasi-judicial land use proceeding, any participant may ask the commission for an opportunity to present relevant evidence or testimony at a later time. The commission may grant the request by scheduling a continuance of the hearing to a subsequent date or by leaving the record open for a specified number of days exclusively for submittal of additional written evidence or testimony. 10, absent continuation of the hearing to a subsequent date, I will close the public portion of the hearing, which means no further public testimony will be permitted. Then the planning commissioners will begin deliberations on the application. Commissioners may ask questions of staff during their deliberations.
The public hearing part 1.
Here we go. Public hearing, part 1, file CPA 2025-002. Now is the time for any members of the council to disclose any bias, conflicts of interest, and ex parte communications concerning this matter, adoption of a new residential buildable land inventory. Let's see. Right, okay, during the public portion of the hearing, any person has the right to provide evidence-based written or formal challenge of the substance of the information provided in any commission member's disclosure or lack thereof. Would any member of the commission like an additional definition of bias, conflict of interest, or ex parte contact? We need an additional definition, anybody? Does anyone wish to disclose conflict of interest, bias, or ex parte? Okay, hearing none. We will accept testimony and conclude deliberation on this topic, but before turning to, file DCA 205-202. 1, staff report including approval criteria.
Thank you very much. So I am going to share a few slides, but they are not terribly detailed, and they're primarily to keep me on track. But let me share my screen for the benefit of share screen. It's a could you enable the screen sharing? Thanks. Great, thank you. There we go. So I'll start with the authorities and standards of review, and then review the buildable land inventory itself. Just a reminder that, of course, you all are providing recommendations to the city council. And that's the action that we're requesting this evening. This is a type 4 legislative land use decision. So the Planning Commission is recommending a decision to the city council. There are 4 decision-making factors that the decision should be based on. And those are statewide planning goals, comments from relevant agencies, any applicable intergovernmental agreements, and then provisions of our own comprehensive plan. So in terms of the statewide planning goals, goal 1, of course, is public involvement. There were a lot of opportunities for public involvement, particularly in the first phase of work around the buildable land inventory. And we also have this hearing, and we'll have another hearing before City Council. I've shared with you a written comment from the South Talent Neighborhood Association, and I believe there may be some additional comment from a representative. Excuse me. Goal 10. The inventory was conducted in accordance with the relevant Oregon administrative rules and statutes governing buildable land inventories and long-term plan. So the buildable land inventory itself is available in some detail online, but basically the inventory itself is conducted as a detailed, detail is probably the wrong word, parcel by parcel analysis of whether or not the individual parcels are developable, partially developed, or undeveloped. And so the exhibits are attached here and will be attached to the comp plan itself. And then the language, the text amendment in the comp plan is included in the attachment. So as the attached page, we should number the entire. I apologize for that. So the commission agenda report, which follows the minutes of previous meetings, is the relevant one, and then the first attachment, page 4 of that staff report provides the amended housing language, and that simply states in the aftermath of the Alameda fire, the inventory was done again, and it updated the 2017 version, and it found less available land to build housing than the 2017 inventory, and that most quote unquote developable residential land continued to be concentrated on low density comp plan designated lands outside of the city's current city limits in the master planned area known as the Railroad District. And on later in that housing element under the goals and findings, there is a finding specifically on residential land inventory. So that the previous language from the previous inventory has been struck. And in the new language, which is essentially that there are 114 acres of buildable residential land, which is primarily comprised of 102 acres of partially vacant land and 12 acres of vacant land. And of the 1,922 residentially designated tax lots within the urban growth boundary, 90% are considered to be developed with no remaining development capacity. Developable residential lands was also found to be concentrated both spatially and in a regulatory sense. The largest tracts of developable residential land are located outside of Talent City limits in its unincorporated urban growth boundary, and nearly 90% of developable residential land is located within low-density residential lands. I'd be happy to go through in a little bit more detail the screens of what lands were eliminated from the inventory, but I think we covered that at the study session. Essentially, unbuildable resource lands are the chief ones that are excluded due to environmental constraints. But I think I should probably stop there. and
Is
see if
that why the calculation decreased from 2017?
No, the decrease from 2017 is primarily due to the fact that the rebuild has been successful. So the fire obviously created a lot of buildable lands, but those have since been built.
Mr. Shapiro.
Okay, so. Town has. 114 acres of buildable residential land. And it says 90% are considered to be developed with no remaining development capacity. So 10% of the 114 acres are available. That would.
Sorry, I was distracted by something else. So you're looking at the added lines in the comp plan under residential land inventory, that last sentence, is that?
Yeah, and I think it was a little confusing too. To the there's South Talent Neighborhood Association as well. But yeah, so right, I'm confused. So 90% are considered to be developable, no remaining development capacity. So 90% of 114 acres.
Sorry, I'll interrupt, because no, it's 90% of the 1,922 tax lots. So 90% of those were considered to be developed. So the 114 acres is on the 10% of tax lots that were not. So the 114 acres of buildable land were on the 10% of lots that were not the 90% considered to be developed with no remaining development capacity. So it's mixing lots and acres there, but in round terms, right, that means there are about 190 lots with 114 acres of buildable lands.
And those 190 lots are mostly partially vacant or fully vacant.
They are in the staff report, it does have I think the breakdown of the partially versus. So 102 acres were found to be partially vacant and 12 acres vacant.
So it's 114 acres, but there's 190 lot lots of that,
yes.
on that 114 acres. That,
Yes, yes, but so 102 of those acres are partially vacant, right? So a lot of those 190 lots do have some development on them. It's such as the parcel that's owned by Mr. Loff. Sorry, Ron, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Loffmeyer. So Mr. Loffmeyer's parcel was counted as partially vacant. And that's according to the standards that we're required to use. So there,
What else? Question? Commissioner Hazel?
So we're required to use those lots. Are they already dividable? Partitionable? You know, or would they have to go through some process to be?
you'd have to look at the specific lot. So they're in the count, while they're unincorporated. So we're talking in an example, in a case that's within the UGB, but not within the city yet. Depending upon its size, it is possible that it would be subdividable currently. But I think the minimum acreage is probably 10. I don't know exactly whether this is what zoning it is currently in the county. But in order to be subdivided, to a more traditional subdivision with small, smaller residential lots, it would have to be brought into the city.
Commissioner D'Amato.
But most of this land is held privately, so it would be dependent on the private owners to develop it, to get housing on, right? So.
Oh,
if it
absolutely.
was developable, partially developed, it's still up to the private owner to develop it, right?
Absolutely. And I think also it's worth noting that the way that land is counted in the inventory doesn't have any impact on how it's regulated. This counting exercise is primarily about long-range planning at a fairly high level for the city or for the purposes of making changes to the urban growth boundary, for example, not exclusively, but that kind of thing. There's no impact on the developability, or frankly, I don't think in any way there's any impact on the parcel of being counted one way or the other in this inventory.
so are most of these parcels not,
Commissioner Shapiro.
are most of these parcels not near public transit shopping? I mean,
Very generally speaking, they are, I think, I read I don't know if they gave the exact proportion that were in the railroad district, but the majority is on the other side of the railroad tracks.
so shouldn't we state that, like, that something about the railroad district feasibility study, doesn't come close to satisfying future housing needs, and it wasn't.
So it's certainly possible to add some color. I don't mean to diminish that comment in any way, but it's not I think you're saying a very reasonable thing. I don't know that it's necessarily important that it's captured in the city's comprehensive plan. The tentative plan or the maneuver that city staff and some council members have discussed, I believe in open session when we were talking about the railroad district, is that a likely avenue for the city in the future is to remove the railroad district from the urban growth boundary, or large majority of it. And that would allow us to swap other lands in. So there is there is the expectation and the record has been set that that is the direction that the city's headed. But we're still obligated to do the residential buildable land inventory according to what is within the urban growth boundary today.
Commissioner Days.
So just clarifying question. The BLI is here and it's been done so that we can create the housing or have a housing needs analysis done, which is more of a clear and focused look at what our community needs for housing and in that we break into low density and the different densities. So the question, and I'm not necessarily looking for an answer, but it would help me to understand the partially vacant land, how that gets statistically worked into the final count, as it were, in the housing needs analysis. In other words, I think they have to realize that, like Mr. Lawheimer, there's not a lot of people that are interested in further developing their land, even though we had a lot of people that had interest in building ADUs on their property after the fire, because we made it easier. So where I guess I'm looking for the clarification, if there was a quick view of how those partially residential lands figure into our total housing needs analysis, that would be great, but I don't necessarily expect you to bring that up on this kind of short notice.
Thanks. And the rules are actually still under, I think they're in a draft form now, but DLCD is just releasing the new housing needs analysis rules. So certainly can bring that back, but yeah, I'm not prepared to answer that today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, now I will open the public testimony on this matter and remind those present or observing that the evidence and testimony given in this evidentiary hearing must address the criteria summarized by the city planner or other land use and development related regulations that the person testifying believes to be applicable to the decision. If you are providing testimony when called upon, come to the microphone, sign in, state your name, state your city of residence, or if you reside outside the city boundaries, state the county you reside in. Is there anyone wishing to testify in favor? Hearing none. Is there anyone wishing to testify in opposition or with requests for clarification?
And I believe Mr. Lawmeyer. Yeah, if you would promote him. Thank you. Mr. Lawmeyer, you're going to need to accept a message to promote you to panelist, and it looks like you just did. Thank you.
I'm sorry, are you able to hear me now?
We've got you loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Ron Loppheimer. I live at 146 Hilltop Road. It's in Jackson County. And I am a member of the South Talent Neighborhood Association Council. I wanted to come here to talk. I know I put some paper in that you all had an opportunity to see. The association is not opposed to the motion before the Planning Commission recommending City Council adoption of the updated residential building lands inventory. And some of the questions that the commissioner members asked, the building over the years that I've been involved in this issue, probably 25 now, the building inventory has to be done. It's required under state code, and then the That's just to tell what land might be available for building, to meet the future needs of the next 20 years of the growth of talent. That will be decided when the estimates of the needs will be handed down from the state and the city. But as I said, the association is not opposing it, but we have some unique circumstances here. And the association is requesting that the planning commission include in its approval motion a statement supporting the city to promptly move forward on the process which results from combining the indisputable findings of the buildable inventory and the Railroad District Master Plan feasibility study. The first is to remove the Railroad District Master Plan from the comprehensive plan, and then to promptly institute an urban growth boundary land swap, which will permit the city to reasonably and cost effectively grow in the future. This is a position the association has been requesting for many years now, and it's now even more appropriate in light of the recent feasibility study findings. The new Railroad District feasibility study had two major findings, and it's already been accepted by the City Council. The first one is that the full Railroad District development will not come close to satisfying the city's alleged future needs over the next 20 years. And probably more importantly, the immense estimated costs for developing either a small section of the Railroad District lands or the full Railroad District lands were not economically feasible at all for the city now or in the foreseeable future. Therefore, in light of the inventory's key finding that probably 80% of Talent's current, future, buildable properties fall within the Railroad District lands, the city must look elsewhere from the Railroad District for its future growth. The association believes that a recommendation from the Planning Commission to the City Council as part of its updated residential building lands inventory approval recommendation that is before you right now to remove the Railroad District lands from the comprehensive plan and to move promptly on the proposed urban growth boundary land swap allows the commission to go on record in support of the proposed urban growth boundary land swap and will be appreciated by the City Council itself. That's why the association is requesting to add such support to the updated inventory approval motion presently before you members. That's my presentation. If I'm available to answer any questions concerning this request.
Thank you, Mr. Lockheimer, for your testimony. Is there anyone else wanting to testify in opposition? Hearing none. And does staff have any written communications on the topic?
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. Yes, we do have the letter that Mr. Lockheimer mentioned. That will be included in the record along with a response from Matt Brinkley with Green Top Planning. I don't think that there's a lot of dispute in that response from Matt Brinkley, particularly to the way Mr. Lockheimer described his position this evening. The letter, I think, does request the removal of that land from the buildable land inventory, but I didn't hear that request this evening. So Matt's response really makes clear that there isn't justification under the state law to remove those lands from the inventory, but the city is moving in the direction that's requested. terms of the exact timing, I think it makes the most sense to actually remove that land from the comprehensive plan at the time you're actually doing the land swap itself. Which is why, staff hadn't yet requested the, council actually adopt the findings of that study, but only to sort of recognize them. And, so, because, yeah, it's a swap and it should be done, at the same time.
So just to clarify, we made the recommendation initially to remove those lands from the UGB when we forwarded the feasibility study onto the city council, but the city council then kind of stuck a pin in, as it were, and just accepted the findings of the railroad district master plan feasibility study, but didn't actually act on this swap that we had suggested at the time. Or
Well,
the removal.
so I honestly, if your recollection may be more precise than mine, I don't want to confirm or deny that there was
I was
much
looking-
different.
I'm impressed.
I don't recollect it. My recollection was that the planning commission recommendation was the same language of what actually happened, that the planning commission suggested that the council accept the findings, but not actually take the step to remove that property from the urban growth boundary.
Okay, that,
Yeah.
I thought we did too, but maybe, like, how many people never said it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember similar thing here and at the council. And also, if you look at the letter that Matt Brinkley wrote, he says in there that after this happened, the city council authorized staff to apply for grant funding for, among other things, a UGB land swap pursuant to Senate Bill, blah, blah, blah. The Department of Land Conservation has announced that that we've been successful in getting grant funding. So it seems to me that there's some steps moving in that direction. Getting funding is a big part of getting there.
Yep. Commissioner Shapiro?
So we have to swap land. We can't not build in the railroad district. We have to swap, we have to increase our buildable land. Even if, say, built, it cost for services and fire, and do we have any say in that, or we just have to swap land and add land to the city?
So there is a sort of higher level requirement that the city plan to accommodate growth. Whether that it doesn't specifically require a swap. There are other ways to achieve that. The city could document the need for that growth in other ways and bring TA4, I believe we're talking about, into the urban growth boundary without swapping out the railroad district. It's probably easier path to do it by doing the swap. But
We have to include more land. We cannot just get rid of the buildable land of the railroad district and not add more of like T4. We can't do that.
I think there probably is a route to doing that. What I think we would need to go through is the housing needs analysis. And if we could demonstrate to the state that we can accommodate the projected population growth in the city, then it would be possible to potentially remove the railroad district without doing a swap.
So is it possible just to wait for that before we take on more land, or?
I'm not totally following your last question.
Wait for the housing needs analysis? I mean, I feel like this is a pertinent discussion. I feel like it's a little, we're running a little bit far afield from the issue of the buildable lands inventory and the recommendation thereof. So let's see, we went over written communications. Before the public testimony of the hearing is closed, does any participant wish to request any time frame extension? Hearing none. Okay, we don't, unless anyone objects, I will close the public testimony portion of this meeting. It is now closed. And before we turn to deliberation, are there any questions, any additional questions for staff pertinent to the issue before us? Okay, Commissioner Hazel.
This is just a clarifying question to make sure that I'm understanding this right. That because this is just an inventory of our current buildable lands, it's because this property is in the urban growth boundary and that's why it must be included in this count right now. So that explains it to me, that that's why we can't take it out. And so it is logical that we'd have to leave it in until we could exchange it to, that's.
Yes, the only question before you this evening is whether to count it, and you are correct. The state laws say that we must count that.
And whether we exchange it or not is for a different time.
It is, although
I know
the commenter was suggesting you take a position on that future path.
I don't know.
Any more questions for staff? I think we're ready to entertain a motion. And there is a potential motion for Commissioner D'Amato.
I move to adopt the proposed order in the matter of planning commission file number CPA 2025-02, recommending the city council to adopt text amendments to element G, housing of the city of Talent comprehensive plan, adopting a new residential buildable lands inventory, and making findings in support of those recommended changes.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Second from Commissioner Hazel. We have a motion and a second. Don't need to read it again. Motion and a second to adopt the proposed order in the matter of planning commission file number CPA 2025-02, recommending the city council to adopt text amendments to element G, housing of the city of Talent comprehensive plan, adopting a new residential buildable lands inventory and making findings in support of those recommended changes. Is there any deliberation? Hearing none, roll call please.
Commissioner Hazel,
Yes.
Commissioner D'Amato,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Shapiro,
Yeah.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
And it passes.
Motion passes. We will now move on to public hearing part 2. File DCA 2025-02. Would any members of the commission, do any members of the commission need to disclose bias, conflict of interest, or ex parte contact? Seeing none. Staff report, including approval criteria.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Clark. I need to get back to share my screen again. A little faster this time. Again, I will start with the basis for decision and then review the proposed changes. So again, we're looking at statewide planning goals, so citizen involvement. There was a lot of involvement, citizen involvement as part of the corridor study. So these parking changes were part of the 99 corridor revisioning study. And of course, this public hearing and the city council public hearing. Goal 2 is land use planning and is to support, take actions to support a variety of economic activities. And by freeing up more developable land is the intent of the state laws that are driving these changes. And goal 12 is transportation. And this is certainly consistent with the state's transportation planning mandates for local cities. In terms of agency comments, both DLCD and ODOT were funders of that corridor revisioning study and have not and have looked at these proposed changes and we've not received any comments. The applicable intergovernmental agreements are primarily the land use agreements that we have with the county. The county was party to the study and is fully aware of the city's plan changes. And then the other standards are within the City of Talent's comprehensive plan and zoning code. Obviously, we have citizen involvement requirements that have been followed and meeting notice requirements. And also there is the existing transportation system plan, which I think Commissioner Davis rightfully asked me to double check whether the parking change, all of the comp plan suggestions were reflected in those changes. And so I'll talk about that in a moment. But on the whole, the changes were consistent. So at a high level, the key changes were the elimination of off-street minimums, the maintenance of off-street maximums, which took a fair amount of reworking of how the code was written. The adoption of new bicycle parking standards and requirements. And why don't I cover that question? Well, no, I'll get to it in the order I planned. And there's a requirement that ADA parking be on site if any off-street parking is on site. There are requirements for EV charging capacity in new residential development, multi-unit residential development, and some additional standards for large parking lots. And these changes, all these changes here on this list were driven by Oregon administrative rules implementing the climate-friendly and equitable communities legislation. So the last time that we met to discuss these changes, there were several questions from the commission or areas the commission requested additional research. So the first was, is there another route to require that short-term rentals provide off-street parking? The initial one avenue that I have been researching is whether we could use our licensing of those kinds of businesses to make such a requirement. I've been told that that's unlikely to be successful, that that's in essence a land use, that is a land use rule. I'm not entirely convinced, so I'm going to continue doing some research on that, but I don't have a clear answer for you today on that question. Well, I should say that DLCD believes that they have a clear answer on that question, and DLCD believes that we cannot do that. I'm not 100% convinced at this point. There were some questions about the residential care and adult care maximums. So I gave you in the staff report a comparison of our maximums with Medford and Ashland's maximums in case you all wanted to adjust those upwards. There's a question about whether the city's language should, we should use the same language as the state in terms of shared parking versus joint parking. DLCD confirmed that they didn't see any issue. Those terms were equivalent. There was a comment about making sure that we are matching the transportation system plan and the comp plan. And so on, there is some language that the city shall require secure sheltered bicycle parking in business developments, institutions, duplex and multifamily developments. So that's the comp plan. That's the larger policy. And our current zoning allows for bicycle racks to meet that requirement. So bicycle parking requirements for long-term and employee parking can be met by providing a bicycle storage room, bicycle lockers, racks, or other secure storage space inside or outside the building. So that's not, arguably less strong than the comp plan is suggesting. It's not sheltered. I think it's the piece of the comp plan that's not meeting. So that's an area for possible discussion this evening, that y'all may want to tighten that or improve that language. That was the only conflict that I could find, a policy that wasn't being implemented that is in the existing comp plan that wouldn't be implemented by the zoning code as proposed. Vice Chair Riley asked if we could simply use ADA standards for some of the handicap parking requirements. And the ADA doesn't really speak to the question at issue. The question at issue is whether you have to provide that ADA parking on site. That accessible parking for individuals with disabilities on site. And the ADA doesn't actually speak to that. So I think the code as proposed makes sense. And there's also a request to make sure that landscaping is maintained and not just built. And so some language was added to this chapter or section. And there are other places in our code that needs to be added to. So I've added that to the code cleanup list. And I think I should probably stop there and see if there are items that I could clarify or that you all would like to discuss further.
Commissioner Hazel?
On this breakdown of the residential care home spaces, there's two of these headings are identical, and I'm just wondering if one should say something else, what the difference is. The nursing home, it's on page 2.
Okay.
Nursing homes, homes for the aged, assisted living facilities, and land uses. They both say that.
Yeah, so sorry, the difference is the way that Ashland categorizes. So the existing Talent Municipal and Medford are identical in those two areas. Ashland has a different standard for nursing home. Well, I can't remember exactly what the first Ashland maximum is for. Oh, sorry, no, I do have it. So Ashland divides that nursing homes, homes for the aged, assisting facilities, et cetera, into two different categories.
Okay.
So yeah, Ashland has one standard for nursing homes and convalescent homes, and one standard for rest homes, homes for the aged, or assisted living. I probably could have communicated that more easily. It probably doesn't need the two sections.
But they're the same. Or just they're more specific.
Yeah, it was just that the two codes weren't entirely parallel in terms of the how they categorized the uses.
Where, oh, that's existing. Is that what we are, the existing code maximum? Is that? The first one is us, and then,
Yes.
so we can increase. Because we are on the low end compared to everybody.
I don't know that that's true.
Yeah.
What's the question?
Okay, now I'm all confused.
Commissioner Shapiro was commenting that
Oh.
it seems like our existing code is more restrictive than these other codes, and I don't necessarily, that wasn't necessarily obvious to me. I think, so if you look at the first category, the residential care home and residential care facilities, we would allow one space per room or two spaces per 3 beds. Medford allows one space per 5.5 resident
Oh, I see.
beds
So we're-
plus one per employee.
So we don't have any employee specifications,
Right, so,
any of ours.
right, so I'm not sure how in the real world those calculations play out. But I would think you would have to have a lot of employees for the Medford maximum to be higher than our maximum.
So should we add parking for employees?
That would be one way to make sure that ours is not more restrictive.
Right. Well, everyone, the rest have, which would make sense. Because probably more of the employees would have cars than the people living there if they're like. And they probably don't, a lot of them don't drive. It's like mostly people that would visit them, I would think, and employees parking, I would think. You're in a convalescent home, you're not really going. Or in a nursing home, so maybe we could look at.
I think part of Vice Chair Riley's point was the continuum of these kinds of facilities, right, is moving earlier and earlier in life. And so more and more folks who are resident may still be driving.
Right, and that's true, you know, yes, like. On the, like, where they're like residential care, or residential care. Or assisted living.
Yeah, assisted living or.
So this doesn't have anything to do with just like a senior housing.
No,
No,
so
they
yeah,
just-
just age restricted housing would have the same standards as residential.
Okay. Got it. Like over 65 or 55 or.
So would, yeah, say that would be described 55.
Over, yes. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just calling on myself here. We're pretty much on par with Ashland, except that Ashland adds a with one space per 3 patient beds, except that Ashland adds a one space per 5 employees. But otherwise, we're on track with the way Ashland's does it, and Medford's maximum is a lower ratio, at least on the residential beds part.
So I'd like to see adding.
I feel like looking at these numbers, I feel like they're fair from the standpoint that I don't see a Linda Vista type facility being built in our community there. That's not the direction that, I hate to describe it as an industry, but the industry is heading. You're looking at more small housing type things, places where people with disabilities or people who are aging can live within a community in their own spaces in what is a very normal looking residential home. So I feel like what's been proposed is adequate.
And to add employee parking. Okay.
I think what's there is adequate
Without having employee parking.
without adding.
Would it hurt to add? Like,
I'm sorry, say that.
would it hurt to add employee parking as an extra? Like,
No, I don't suppose. I mean, I can. In general terms, the residents that I manage, we live on a street that was clearly designed with a 70-foot roadway. So we have plenty of on-street parking. For staff. I kind of laugh when you say one parking space for 5 employees or 5, and I don't imagine, I can't see myself having 5 employees show up in one car. But, I guess that would be something to consider as we look at if people are talking about trying to take an existing residential home, turn it into a facility. What kind of street dimensions do you have out front? Is it a 50-foot or a 60-foot roadway? Where then you're talking about multiple staff coming in cars, 3 or 4 staff per shift, 2 or 3 cars per shift that are then parking on the street in addition to other homes, which may or may not be rental homes with more than 1 or 2 vehicles there, that I think you're gonna end up maybe looking at some kind of serious congestion and difficulty people getting in and out of up and down the street, which in our community with our past history with fire, I think is really important. So
and that's saying that these are all based on like, houses turned into nursing, that kind of scenario, like a house. As a, but there's other possibility too, like, just facilities, right?
right.
Yeah.
And I would assume that maybe that kind of, and sorry, I'm sort of sorting this out as we go, but as we look at large facilities coming in, you're gonna assume that's going in a newer subdivision or in an area of undeveloped land where we could be requiring a 70-foot roadway. Does that make sense? And I don't know how we would capture that in terms of employee parking. Or if that's something that we would have to look at adjusting the requirements in the comp plan for that kind of development.
All right, well,
Sorry.
yes, Commissioner D'Amato.
Since we're talking about maximum, right, because we're talking about maximums here, I think it might be a good idea still to add, and, I just think, so I think that might be, a wise thing to give you.
One currently, like on this one, the largest fit?
Well,
or-
something for, that's the thing, I don't know, like, what you should do, but I do think having designated parking for staff.
Yeah.
That's not.
I don't think it would hurt.
I don't think it hurt.
Yeah, I think it's just an extra, if needed, would be in there, so that's. Cause there's difference in.
I have a different question.
Okay, yeah, I'll just say on that, adding 1 space per employee could be. Yeah, you have. Again, these are maximums, they're not minimums, so. But if a place had 5 employees and wanted to add 5 spaces, it's a lot of space, but maybe
Yeah.
it's needed
Or just saying, and a designated spot for employees, period, not one space per, or it's one space for 5 employees. That's a part the professionals would have to answer. I'm just saying, any kind of, something designated for, not all the employees, but at least a space for employees.
Okay. Well, we will have a chance to circle back on this and other issues. The conclusion of the process.
And Commissioner, if I should have run these numbers for you, but I didn't take the time, so I apologize. But if you look at the first category, if you think about if you had 10 beds under the talent code, you could have 7 spaces. If you had 10 beds under the maximum code, you could have 2 spaces plus 1 per employee on the largest shift. So seems that would be a lot of staffing, I think, for ours to be more restrictive. That would mean that ours sort of has built in enough space for 5 employees to cover 10 beds.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna-
That's baked in, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that there's enough space then for employees and.
I think it's generous enough. I mean, in the second category, if you had 10 beds, we'd allow, again, no, 10 beds. Well, yeah, again, the 8, 7.5 or 8. And then Medford's well,
So
they were exactly the same numbers. So surprise, they come out the same. And then
one, 5 point.
third category, I still think we're providing quite a bit of parking.
Yep,
Thanks for doing this. That's-
yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I had that question.
Commissioner D'Amato.
Just go back to the minimums and why we don't have, why we're going to no minimum. Is that because of the climate friendly area, right? That's what, I just have to remind myself that.
Yes. Yes.
That's why I was on the table, and we don't really have a choice.
Thank you. And yeah, it should mention that for the record. There were 2 options. One was to eliminate the minimums entirely. The other would have allowed us to keep minimums in the very small portion of the city that is greater than a half mile from the bus line. We would have to do a number of other things as well in order to keep that small, regulating parking in that small area, which which staff wasn't recommending, one, because the additional things that we need to do were fairly significant. And you'd wind up with this situation where you're regulating parking in one very small neighborhood and not regulating parking on the next street over, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense from a policy standpoint.
Are we move on to the public testimony portion? Right, now I open the public testimony on this matter and remind those present or observing that the evidence and testimony given in this evidentiary hearing must address the criteria summarized by the city planner or other land use and development related regulations that the person testifying believes to be applicable to the decision. If you are providing testimony when called upon, come to the microphone, sign in, state your name, state your residence, reside outside the city boundaries, the county you reside in. Is there anyone wishing to testify in favor?
I don't believe we have any testifiers in either direction.
Okay. No one volunteer to testify in favor or in opposition? And does staff have any written communications on this topic?
Just reflecting back, because this has been open a while, I did receive some questions, but no comments.
Okay,
No comments.
all right, before the public testimony of the hearing is closed, does any participant wish to request any time frame extension? Hearing none. The public testimony portion of this meeting is now closed. Before we turn to deliberations, are there any more questions for staff from the commission? Commissioner Hazel.
So I don't know if this would be part of deliberation or not, but I thought we were going to be going through different sections. And I did have a question about the change to the childcare center parking. That it's nothing, it's one space per employee, but that's it. Nothing for dropping off the kids. We take away the continuous flow of passenger vehicles for the purpose of loading and unloading. I don't really understand why that's being taken away. It seems unsafe.
Thank you, Commissioner Hazel. I moved it, or what staff are proposing to move it. So, that was the only loading regulation in that table. And there is 110 section 30 for off-street loading. So I added that same language as B under off-street loading. So
That's in here.
yeah, if you're, the red line version of the, it's on page 2, section 030B.
Page 2.
It's page 2 of the code red line, the off-street parking and loading.
What page is it on our
32 on the PDF packet.
packet?
Thank you.
Okay, that makes more sense. I thought this was crazy. Thank you.
Of course.
So are we, are there any further discussion about, or questions about that? Hearing none. What about this notion of the, bicycle, parking? Can you go over what you were saying before, on that matter, Alex?
Absolutely. So, apologies that I don't have the PDF pages in front of me, but on page 14 of 23 of that chapter,
Okay.
off-street loading and parking, there is section E, options for storage. And what that says is bicycle parking requirements for long-term and employee parking can be met by providing a bicycle storage room, bicycle lockers, racks, or other secure storage space inside or outside of the building. So I think that, if I remember correctly, ex officio member Pestizo's point was particularly related to residential bike parking and the suggestion that fully secured parking may be desired.
Long-term or even employee parking, because their bike could be there for 8 hours. There's the weather, but we also, bikes go on very easily.
Sure, and sorry, and I was just wanting, I think we may want to clarify this options for storage is really clearly does include residential. Just the way it's written, I think it was intended to, but I'm not sure it's entirely clear on that point. And then I think the other way that we may, you may potentially want to deal with, ex officio member Vestizo's point would be eliminating racks as one of the options for secure storage. It may be that you want to do that for some portion of the secure storage or require all the secured storage to be, in something more than simply a rack. But anyway, that's the section of the code that I think,
And this is saying 50% of the bicycle parking must be sheltered.
What page
Present.
are you on, 43?
Yes, that piece was
Yes,
under
thank
item
you.
A2.
yeah, so it's A2. Does require 50% be sheltered.
Well, and shelter doesn't always mean secure, that could just be a retail.
Can we change it to secure? I don't know what that means if there's.
So can I ask, having had 2 bikes stolen out of my apartment in Phoenix when I lived there, I guess I don't have a clear idea of what secure storage means for a bicycle. It seems to me that I look at SOU has the racks that are 2 layers and then there's a roof space over that extends out. And that's like really visible. And it seems to me that would be harder still, but can you give me an example of what you see as a real secure storage? Because I'd love to know, because I'd like to keep a bike.
Yeah, well, I mean, getting stolen out of your house is like, or your apartment is, that's what I would think is as secure as you would think you would need to keep it from getting stolen, but in my mind, there's a distinction between people who are just like going to the store, running in for 20-30 minutes and running out. Although my daughter had her bike stolen, locked in front of a Joanne Fabrics. So, and she wasn't in there very long. They have these grinders now, they just come up and zip and they hop on it and take off. But people who are going to work and they're going to be otherwise occupied for hours or overnight, I think it needs to be closed and locked from the outside. So that like people I know that I've never worked there, but in Portland, some businesses just had rooms where employees brought their bikes in. And where I am in the city of Medford, they have a room, it's not very big, but where employees can park their bikes behind a locked door that only other employees have access to.
So my experience, you mentioned that, and down in the Lithia building in Medford, there is an alcove off the entranceway it's tinted glass, but you can see the bikes and you can see the racks, but it's in a locked space within the building.
Yeah, I just think, these days, especially people who are investing in, electric bikes, they're really pricey. And if you want people to ride their bikes, leave them someplace overnight or while they're at work all day, they're not likely to want to do it. I know I wouldn't. And, even when I was in college in the 80s, we had our bikes that, rode for fun and exercise. Then we had our junker bikes that we rode to class because you wanted something that didn't look like it was worth stealing. Which if you're commuting very far on a bike, then that's up to work against you. I just think it's something that often gets overlooked, from the big picture of more bike and pedestrian usage. But if we're not providing infrastructure that makes people willing to do it, it's not likely to happen.
There are bicycle lockers like Providence Hospital in their big parking garage. They've got like lockers that are completely enclosed. They're individual closed boxes that your bike goes into. You lock it, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something that is provided secure.
Yeah, and I've seen those like, years ago, even in the Bay Area, for some of the bus stops, they had that sort of thing. You put your bike in and it's all closed up and then you have a key to lock it up.
Mhm.
We can specify something, secures enough.
Yeah, I mean, how do we capture the sort of different circumstances? I mean, yeah, you know, the longer you leave it, the more secure it needs to be. You don't necessarily need like your own private bike lock and bike locker in front of a raise. Go and get half and half for your coffee.
Yeah, not necessarily,
But you could lose your bike too.
it's sort of a gamble, you know, but your car could be stolen too, you still drive that place.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I guess I'm not sure how to actually put it into words, or, you know, get it into a policy like this. And you're right, when I think secure, I know what I'm thinking, but what someone else is thinking secure may be different.
Wonder if there's any other language and any other codes that we could.
I think that certainly would be, I'm tempted to suggest that maybe some more research and more examples for you all to consider might be helpful. I'm also realizing that I think it would be helpful to line out exactly what our code says, because there are the requirements for multi-unit dwellings are require certain things. It's not entirely how much of those overlap with other requirements. I'm not totally sure as we sit here exactly how we would implement this code. And I do think looking at some other examples would be very helpful.
So where does that leave us process wise?
I think my suggestion or request would be to go ahead and pass these changes, because I think these are all at least incrementally in the right direction. And then we come back to you all for a deeper dive on whether we need to increase the requirements for secure, you know, add another a tighter definition of what is secured, or change the definition on residential specifically. I don't know, because I don't know what the other examples we may find suggest.
Does that mean a continuation of the hearing?
It wouldn't require that, no. My recommendation would be for you all to take action on what's here and come back at a later date to the question of, do we have adequately secure bike storage? Because
That require another public hearing though?
it would, but I mean, we've got, you know, got a lot there, that code update list, as I've shared with you, has a lot on it. And we did,
Okay.
as Councilor Prestizo pointed out, we did receive a grant for doing some code update work, next year. So I would expect that, you know, we'll be having a fair number of public hearings on Title 18.
Yeah, okay. So one potential approach is to recommend these code changes as written, with the understanding that the requirements for bicycle parking will be revisited along with other code revisions in Title 8. Does anyone have a comment or question about that? Dave?
I'm just thinking about the racks, is that specifically for residential or is that include commercial as well?
It is commercial as well. So the long-term and employee parking, and this is the piece I'm still not entirely sure whether they intended to apply this to residential or not. So it's long-term and employee parking for commercial for sure. Um, the way the code's organized, it implies to me that it covers residential as well, but there is a separate section under the number of bicycles parking spaces for multiple unit dwellings where they talk about a different sheltered standard.
Well, I would say even if it's commercial, if the bike parking they're talking about is getting to the long-term employee parking, that racks may not be appropriate for that. And if that's what they're talking about.
I hear you. Yeah, I do.
That seems like that would be an easy to take out at this point.
It would seem that, never mind.
Commissioner Shapiro.
So is that the only piece of this is the bicycle parking? That is in question.
So
Is there
we-
other confusing things that we still have to address?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've gone through the questions that I had or that I responded to. And this is the one that we're talking about right now. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if are there other,
Yeah.
are there other sections that you want to go deep on, I guess. Maybe.
Well, you were saying that you know, some of the things you wanted to review, like with the parking. So is that something that we might have to revisit in this same?
When I was saying that to put off something for further work, I was referring specifically to the bike, the secure bike storage question.
So in terms of bike racks, I'm looking for where that,
So the options for storage, so the bicycle parking facilities is 100. And then E, options for storage. Says, and it's explicitly bicycle parking requirements for long-term and employee parking can be met by providing a bicycle storage room, bicycle lockers, racks, or other secure storage space inside or outside of the building. So I do think, Councilor Castillo's recommendation that striking racks from that section would be something that would be fairly easy to do tonight. And certainly matches the spirit of the comp plan. It does leave this kind of ambiguous other secured storage space that I think either by policy or by code, we need to make clear doesn't include bike racks. I guess you could do that right now. You could strike racks and you could say, or other secure storage space inside or outside of the building, not including bike racks.
Moving in the right direction.
that sounds good. So, okay,
So, I will restate that. And so when you all get to the point of a motion, I think you could just simply say as amended. So I think the amendment would be to strike racks. And then at the end of that line, would be comma, not, well, how about a little bit more formal language. I would put a parentheses, bike racks would not meet the standard. Or do not meet the standard.
is there any further deliberation on this or other proposed changes? Okay, I will entertain entertain a motion. There. 30.
It's 30.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Gotta look up when you're sharing the meeting. Look at the television. Commissioner.
I would
Otto.
like to make a motion. I move to adopt the proposed order in the manner, okay, so where do I put the? I move to adopt the proposed order with said amendments, or is that, I mean, where do I put with the change? Not too sure where in the statement I say that.
So it would be, I think, after the code amendments. So recommending the city council to adopt the proposed Title 18 code amendments as amended.
As amended, okay. All right. I move to adopt the proposed order in the matter of planning commission file number DCA 2025-02, recommending the city council to adopt the proposed Title 18 code amendments with amendment
Sure.
and making findings in support of those recommended changes.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Second from Commissioner Hazel. We have a motion and a second to adopt the proposed order in the matter of planning commission file number DCA 2025-02, recommending the city council adopt the proposed Title 18 code amendments with amendments and making findings in support of those recommended changes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hazel,
Yes.
Commissioner D'Amato,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Shapiro,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Right. Okay, item number 6, discussion items. The first item is bylaws updates. I requested putting this on the agenda. I think we're gonna hear more tomorrow night in the discussion amongst the officers of the committees and commissions about an effort to create more consistency in the bylaws and across the committees and commissions. And to make those consistent with the city council's rules of procedure. And if some things, need to be different, I'm sure that, that they do, but there are things that are different across the committees and commissions that are inconsistent without really, just because they were written individually without cross-referencing. I think that's my understanding, is that there was an effort to do that. One of the things that is inconsistent in that is the planning commission is the only committee or commission in which the chair can only serve for 1 year. As we, look to January and electing the chair of 2026, the commission might choose, a commissioner might choose to nominate, might wish to nominate the current chair. And so, we can start working on bylaws, amending our bylaws to make it in that process. And like I said, I think we'll get lined out on this a little more tomorrow night. But if we're able to move that through, move that process through of editing and recommending amendments to our bylaws and get that to council, then this body, like other committees and commissions in the city of town, will have freedom to nominate any member to its chair. So, and, so that's just, something I wanted to put on the, commissioner's radar.
And the city council's having this meeting tomorrow night?
It's a joint meeting of, city council and committee and commission officers.
Yes, yes. So my understanding is in the past, there have been these occasional joint sessions when there's a fifth Wednesday. And I think council, I wasn't aware of that specific item, Commissioner Clark, so that's helpful.
About the
for me.
bylaws.
Yeah, well, the 1 year maximum of the chair being
Oh, yeah.
a difference between the planning commission and others.
Both of our officers are out of town.
Yes, yes.
I'm gonna be in there wearing my Talon River Forestry hat, but I'll have a planning commissioner,
Yeah.
hat underneath it.
If there is another member of the commission who's interested and available to attend, they'd be most welcome.
Line.
And I doubt we'll get as deep as Commissioner Clark did, targeting that one specific detail. We do want to do sort of, just review the basics, make sure we're on the same page as far as standard operating procedures. And then talk about these fifth Wednesdays going forward for next year. What are the topics that would make sense to go deeper as that group, the council and committee officers on? An example of that might be how suggestions for events are presented to council on sort of, just how to do that and what the parameters, should council perhaps set some expectations about what kinds of events? Anyway, that's one possible topic. I think another possible topic is the various methods of communication. You all have very active ex officios, whereas some of the committees don't. And so I think there are some that have more of a gap in communication between the committee and the council. Anyway, so, and then the third topic is to share with the officers presentation that staff has been working on, that we're thinking about doing some public presentation of within the next few months about the city's overall fiscal condition. And then as a part of that, also talk specifically about this year's budget process and how to involve committees and commissions in this year's budget process for those who may want to request additional funds. So anyway, that's the agenda for tomorrow.
Just curious, so was this meeting in different public? It's on the website.
It's on the website, yeah.
Right.
Thanks.
Sure. And then the other, there is a hot link on your agenda to a new community development, City of Talent community development map, where it's not linked from the web page yet because we are still sort of debugging it, making sure it's usable. But you all are invited to make use of it and also be our guinea pigs. I'm sure you all may find things that don't seem intuitive to you that staff may just be doing and not recognizing is not necessarily super user friendly. An example of that, when you get there, and Nikki has been working on adjusting this, so I'm not sure today that it's still a problem, but the left-hand column has the lists of the layers that you can see that are visible. And it can be a little tricky as to whether you're making those layers visible or hidden. You can hide them at the group level, but you can't necessarily force them to display at the group level. So sometimes it can be a little tricky to get the layer that you want on. So be sure to open the accordion so you can see the specific layer that you're looking for, because you may not be able to turn it on by clicking on the whole group. Anyway, those are the kind of usability questions that I think would be great to get feedback on.
Nice.
And then the third discussion item, I want to come back and share with you all a few questions that we'll be raising with you all when we get into the CFA discussion, and also to preview a little bit of what we've been thinking. What we're thinking is an overlay that looks a lot like a zone in our code, i.e. it would be in the same section as the zones. So it'd be easily and obviously findable. We would you keep there's only one setback currently in the central business district, and that is to have a 20-foot setback from adjacent areas that are zoned residential. So we're thinking about keeping that. There would be no minimum lot area or dimensions and no maximum lot coverage. We will propose a height limit of 35 feet or 3 stories. The current zoning is 2.5 stories or 30 feet by right, and then 40 feet by conditional use. So we would be making larger buildings possible by right, but not larger than are currently allowed by conditional use. And we've done the alternative analysis to show that we can accommodate enough density without going to the full 50 foot. That was the sort of generic standard. So I think that's positive news. And I think that there are a couple questions that struck Matt as worth discussing. The central business district has pretty strict rules about not allowing you have to be curb tight style development, right? That there not be a front yard setback. The idea being that when you're walking in an urban area, it's more comfortable and natural for that storefront to be right there at the back of the curb. It does allow a 10-foot setback for no more than 50% of the ground floor width. So Matt was suggesting you all may want to consider, council may want to consider allowing that, maintaining that. One, there's a question of whether to maintain it, and a question of whether you would want to allow that 10-foot for the full width if it is residential development. So particularly when you think about, we've got some lots that face Valley View on the other side of the highway and face 99 on the other side of the highway, allowing a full 10-foot setback may make some sense. Anyway, that's a question that I wanted to preview for you all.
Just pointing to how that's specifically for residential.
I'm not sure if in the existing zone it's residential only, but Matt was suggesting that if we did want to allow more flexibility, that it'd be for residential specifically.
That makes sense for me.
And then the on on the three-story limit, the defensibility of the three-story limit. We think that there may be a challenge with the Old Town Design District step backs. So I'm gonna need to give you more detail on that. But and then the final piece, just again, just to preview for you all. If you may remember, the revisioning corridor work suggested changing a whole bunch of uses to type 1. I don't think that that's necessary or required by the state statute. But when I was reviewing this again recently, I think there are a few that are currently conditional uses that to comply with state law, we probably do need to make type 2. And those are some schools and public uses that would need to be allowed by right within the CFA. So I know those are I'm just kind of throwing those out cold to you all, but I wanted to give you some time to digest that, and because those are some specific topics that we haven't previewed in any of the previous sessions. I guess I should also take the opportunity, Commissioner Davis shared something that he recollected about prior discussions about anti-displacement strategies. But if there are any topics that we haven't covered in the previous study sessions on CFA, or that we did cover and you've got remaining questions about, sort of, are there areas that you want to make sure that we do a thorough job on the presentation regarding?
Thank you.
Sure. And if they occur to you between now and then, please feel free to send me an email and let me know.
Okay. Right. Item 7 actually is propositions and remarks from the commission.
I don't really, I kind of want to go around schedule for the next couple of months. I know we have another add-on session in November, right, like the 14th or something. And then the next meeting is the week of Thanksgiving, and we are meeting that. I just want to make sure we're meeting that Thursday. I couldn't remember what the schedule was.
Thank you. Yeah. And in my mind, that's an open question. I wasn't sure whether you all, so part of the reason I made the November 18th meeting was thinking that regardless of the wishes, that it may be challenging to get quorum the day before Thanksgiving. So so I scheduled that November 18th, and that is scheduled for a public hearing. It would be the first public hearing on the climate-friendly area adoption. That is scheduled for 5:30 rather than the normal 6 o'clock time. And then I'm very interested in this body's opinion about whether it makes sense to try to meet on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Selfishly, I think it might be really nice to have that in our back pocket if we maybe even we could notice it so it's available. It could be canceled, but if the CFA discussion, unveils a lot of depth to it that we don't get to all of it, it might be really nice to have that option.
Anything else? Proposition remarks?
I think I'll just close by saying, I think that I'll follow up with an email to the full commission to understand whether there's a chance, whether November 25th is a possibility or not. And if it is a possibility, I'll go ahead and put it on the schedule. So, and then we can cancel it if it's not needed. Great.
Then, item 8 is assignment of representative to council if necessary. If that's necessary. Anyone, these other ones. And item 9 is adjournment. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
All right.